Topics here, rapid fire, and you're going to tell me whether it's something to be concerned about or just a big nothing burger. So the Browns quarterback battle continues on. We had an interesting development on day 10 of training camp. It was Deshaun Watson taking all the first-team reps on Saturday, despite it being expected to be Shedeur Sanders' day to receive the majority of the work with the starters. Myron, Deshaun getting the first-team reps, something or nothing?
I think it's definitely something. At this point of your time, Monken, you know that a young quarterback needs all the confidence he can get if you think he's going to be your guy. And there's an opportunity to give him that, and we just haven't heard that from the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So I do think it's something that Deshaun Watson is getting the reps, and we haven't heard a lot of overwhelming praise from him about Shedeur Sanders.
Kevin?
I think it's something. I'm baffled by it, frankly. I was in Cleveland a couple of days ago. Tom Monken spoke glowingly about the steps year over year that Shedeur Sanders has made, where he's asking questions, he's curious. The things he's seeing in practice have really impressed him. So I thought that Shedeur had a lot of momentum. And to see this, until I get a good explanation for it, baffled is the word I would use, Mike.
Yeah, if you're baffled, I'm stunned. Like, this makes no sense to me. You spent $230 million and 3 first-round picks, and the guy's played 19 games, and he's tore his Achilles tendon twice. Like, give me the fact pattern of a player who hasn't played good football in 6 years, tore his Achilles tendon twice, came back, played well in a free agency year. I mean, this is crazy. Like, you need to know what you have with Shedeur Sanders. Oh, and by the way, Taylor Green and Dylan Gabriel. Like, cut your losses. Move on from Deshaun Watson. You're in year 1 of a Todd Monken program. Obviously, quarterback could be in the mix for next year. You got to see what you have with these young guys. I don't think there's any conceivable way they would re-sign Deshaun at the end of the year. So I would go with those 3 young guys and just move on from Deshaun Watson.
As a former front office executive, you know how you guys are just managing reps all throughout the offseason, making sure that everything is lined up. So playing devil's advocate here, is it possible that with their preseason game coming up in Chicago on Saturday, that they were doing this with Deshaun to give him the first-team reps because they're expecting Shedeur and others to get most of that work in that preseason one?
Possibly, and maybe you want to showcase him because Team X called and said, hey, we need a veteran backup. Let's see, like 2-3 drives with Deshaun Watson. Like, that is not inconceivable as well. So you really never know. But for me, I'm just hard-pressed to understand, like, what's the upside in Deshaun Watson being the Cleveland Brown quarterback this year. You're clearly the 4th best team in the division. And again, he's a skilled, diminished player at this point in time.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time for everybody to have him start any meaningful time.
This has been a pretty competitive quarterback battle that we've seen so far among all training camps. And speaking of competitive training camps, things got pretty intense at Raiders camp on Friday. Max Crosby and Kirk Cousins got into a heated scuffle. Both players were held out of practice on Saturday for disciplinary reasons. So with Cousins out of practice, it was Fernando Mendoza getting first-team reps. Max Crosby and Kirk Cousins fighting during practice. Kevin, is that something or nothing?
I didn't think it was anything until they held them out of practice for a day, which seems to suggest that there was a level of seriousness to it, maybe that rises above a normal training camp fight. Rex Ryan used to have, Rob Turner to start training camp fights if things were going a little boring or a little quiet. Like, training camp fights are a part of the process here. The fact that Clint Kubiak wanted to say, hey, we don't do that here, it suggests that something was a little bit amiss. To me, I actually like it in the sense that I think everybody thought that Kirk Cousins was going to come in, be a great mentor, be a goody two-shoes, give his job to Fernando Mendoza. No, it seems like he's being competitive, he's being aggressive, and we're seeing this sort of stuff. He wouldn't get in a fight with Max Crosby if he didn't care about winning that job.
Mike T, do you like seeing this as a GM? I mean, you want competitive fire from everybody, but your star quarterback and your star defensive player.
Yeah, context is everything. Maybe it's more of the backup offensive lineman that USC. But I do think, to Kevin's point, the nuance here to me is Kirk Cousins is all in, and maybe he's feeling his athletic mortality, like we've heard him maybe audition for broadcasting. Like, he's close to the end, and I'm sure he's an uber competitive driven person. So I'm not surprised. And if I'm Max Crosby, I got to know, like, hey, I could, there could be scuffles, not with the starting quarterback, though.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the issue. Like, there should be 8 other guys on that offense who were held out of practice because they stood up for Kirk Cousins. To me, it's not about his toughness. To me, it's about who is going to stand up for your guy. Like, I have questions about the Raiders as a team, knowing that Kirk fought the best defensive player, and it seems like no one else got involved. That's a bad sign for me, so I think it's something.
I covered Kirk Cousins prior to him becoming Kirk O'Chains, and I have a very hard time seeing him getting in someone's face, let alone
Yeah.
Max Crosby, the one guy I would not want the smoke from. So maybe a new Kirk Cousins emerging here in the later part of his career. You know, it also could be. I mean, I feel like guys don't mind not having to go to training camp practice. So on the flip side of this, you might be thinking he did him a favor by kicking him out for the next day. So I don't know. Maybe just a little conspiracy theory on my end. Here's another one for you. 49ers defensive star Nick Bosa has missed several practices during training camp and general joint soreness. Head coach Kyle Shanahan said there's been no major setback and no long-term concern for Bosa, who's missed most of last season after he tore his ACL. The former Defensive Player of the Year adds to the long list of 49ers injuries that they are dealing with throughout training camp. Speaking of conspiracy theories, Mike, we know about the substation, we know about all of those things, but the injuries are what they are. The numbers are staggering for this 49ers team. Something or nothing.
It could be something, but let's say this. Like, this is a first-class organization that cares deeply about their players, their current players, their former players. They got an elite head coach, a great GM who was a former player himself. So there's no shortage of resources. With that said, the verb I would use if I was these guys is scour. Like, as you mentioned, Courtney, like the facts are the facts. And I would do a complete autopsy over the last 5 years, like how we bring people in, how, we look at our doctors, we look at everything just to make sure that we're best in class. And, hopefully over time this becomes a non-story. But the fact that we're even talking about this, it's a reason for concern. And knowing how thoughtful they are, I'm sure they've done most of this already. You just want to make sure there's nothing missing as an organization.
I'm going to solve your mystery, Mike Tannenbaum. They're an old roster. They're a veteran-heavy roster. And obviously, a guy like Ricky Pearsall, that's just bad luck early in the season.
Mikael Williams,
but Mike Evans being out on that list, that's what happens when you sign a guy who's been around for a long time. But you think about a guy like a George Kittle, a Fred Warner. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey 2 years ago missed time. When you're signing guys, Nick Bosa, to your second and third contracts, there's just an element of injury risk that comes with it. That's just how this league works. And so I think when you're a veteran-heavy roster, you run the risk here. To me, this is extremely something because they got to have everything go right for them to be on the level of the Seahawks and the Rams. And this is a really, really bad start. The Rams and the Seahawks are going to run away and hide in this division by Halloween if this team isn't healthy and winning a bunch of games.
It just makes it hard to project what they're going to be. I mean, the ceiling is very high, but this is the greatest what-if team I think we've seen in the NFL in recent years. And by the way, we talked about excuses for Patrick Mahomes and other quarterbacks. Brock Purdy certainly hasn't had that, and he has been surrounded by injuries on both sides of the ball. So this is a 49ers team that could be really good, but I don't think anyone's ready to say that until we know if they're going to be healthy or not.
It's just they deal with this all the time. Aging roster is one thing with the San Francisco 49ers team, but there has not been a team that has been more snake-bitten, Kevin, with injuries over the last couple of years than the San Francisco 49ers. And I know we've had this conversation before, but I think we have to have it again. Is it possible